Caitlin Clark has elevated women's college basketball like none other. The Iowa point guard recently broke the Division I record for most points in a single season.
Caitlin has emerged because the women's game has emerged. The women have improved so much.
Clark also broke not only the women's overall NCAA scoring record, she also surpassed the men's mark of 3,667 points held by former LSU great Pete Maravich. That's a record that stood for 54 years.
It's the Pete, a 21-footer.
In her 4 seasons, Clark has averaged over 28 points a game. Maravich played just 3 varsity seasons, averaging over 44 points, and that was without a three-point line or shot clock.
Well, that's like saying the guy in Japan broke Babe Ruth's home run record. It's apples and oranges. It's not the same. And it shouldn't be the same. And it shouldn't take away from what she has accomplished, which is incredible, and what Pete accomplished was incredible. She's special. And Pete was special too.
While Clark has a bright professional career ahead, let's go back and remember the man who redefined the game, former Jazzman Pete Maravich. Pete was born in 1947 near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and practically grew up with the basketball since birth.
Don't forget, he played basketball every day of his life. His father had him playing basketball when he was a baby.
His father, Press Maravich, tutored Pete early on. He was playing organized basketball by age 7, and by 12 was practicing the game up to 10 hours a day. Basketball was his life and his passion.
There's rumors that father would take him to school and he'd be dribbling basketball outside the window of the car, that type of thing. So he lived and died by the basketball.
It was in high school where he earned the nickname Pistol Pete because of his unique shooting style. He went on to his record-setting college career, playing for his father at LSU. It was even calculated if there had been a three-point line, Pete would have averaged nearly 57 points a game. He was a 2-time College Player of the Year and 3-time Consensus All-American. Pete had the kind of game no one had seen before.
1 for 1, with the Davis in the three.
In 1970, it was on to the NBA. Pete was drafted 3rd overall by the Atlanta Hawks, and his contract of $1.9 million for 5 seasons was a very big salary at that time.
He could do things that other players couldn't do, what you didn't really realize until you had a chance to see him in person.
I think playing against him with some players, the way he would show them up with, some of those showman type skills that they probably didn't like it.
Behind the back, how do you do a little showtime there?
Pete's time in Atlanta lasted 4 seasons. Then Sam Battistone's expansion team, the New Orleans Jazz, traded 2 players and 4 draft picks to bring in the former local star to boost ticket sales and give credibility to the new franchise.
It gave us immediate credibility by bringing Pete in. Recognized as one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
I would describe his game by saying he was very much ahead of his time. Hot Rod Hundley always used to say the yo-yo dribble, and I don't know anybody that exemplified that as much as Pete. The ball was on a string, how he could handle the ball and what he could do with it.
Ron Boone played with Maravich when the two were with the Utah Jazz in 1979.
You really want to know this story?
He also played against Pete when he was with the Kansas City Kings and Maravich was with the Jazz.
So we were playing the New Orleans Jazz, and Pistol Pete got like 36 points in the first half. And guess who was guarding most of the time? It was me,
Boy, he is an offensive machine.
After 5 seasons in New Orleans, the team moved to Utah because of lack of ticket sales and fan interest. But by that time, Pete's career was nearing an end, and Adrian Dantley was the team's main offensive threat.
The people here got cheated a little bit because they never saw the real Pete Maravich. I think he played 16, 17 games or something, but he had a leg that was was destroyed.
Not only was he a great scorer, Pete could pass like he had eyes in the back of his head, and his dribbling and ball handling skills were unparalleled. Despite his all-star talents, Maravich was part of just 1 full winning season during his 10-year career, and that was in his last year with Atlanta.
He couldn't help you win. All right, he could score and pass and do all those things, and maybe put other good players with him, and he would have been really something special. He didn't have that cast here. I mean, if he was on the Lakers with Jabbar and Worthy, he would have been like magic. He would have been able to do those things and help you to win.
Because of lingering knee issues, Pete played just 17 games in Utah and was waived by the Jazz in January of 1980. He then signed with Boston, teaming up with a rookie by the name of Larry Bird. The Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference Finals that year. That was the best finish of Pete's NBA career.
I think that that's one of the real disappointments that I have, is that more fans in Utah didn't get to see Pete, and especially in his prime.
Those few months in Boston would be his last. In his 10-year career, Pete averaged 24 points and 5 assists per game. He was a 5-time All-Star and inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame. His number 7 jersey hangs in the Delta Center, and he's one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. After he retired, Coach Layden called him to be his assistant.
But he said no. He said, I'm tired. I'm going to go home and spend time with my wife and my children. And that was it.
In 1980, I quit basketball. I was despondent.
In the final years of his life, Pete looked for a new purpose. He became a born-again Christian.
I remember crying out in my spirit. I said, "Oh God, you're going to have to save me."
Not long after this, Pete died of a heart attack after playing in a pickup basketball game. He was just 40 years old. His legacy lives on.
It was a very, very sad moment. Because he was a special guy. He was a great player. I've had a lot of great players that weren't special guys. But he was a special guy. I would like to remember him not as the great scorer, but Pete was a gentleman.
For Beyond the Game, I'm Kathy Aiken, KSL.com.